Now for a 12 News Legal Deep Dive, where we take a look at some of the biggest legal cases making headlines in Arizona and all across the country. First, a civil rights attorney just filed a notice of claim against 3 Phoenix police officers and the city of Phoenix, seeking $500,000 in damages after a teenager was assaulted by police officers. Now, this all happened back in January 2024. Body cam footage here shows officers arriving at the home of the teenager, Sergio Nino, after his father called police because he was having issues disciplining his son during an argument. In this video, Nino's dad says this isn't the first time he's called the cops on his son. Listen to what one of the officers tells him.
Well, you can. You're just choosing not to.
I mean,
You drag him.
Really?
You drag him. You hit him. He's a child. He only has rights from the government. He has no rights from you. So if you wish to beat him, you can beat him. If you wish to belt him, belt him.
The officers then tried to talk to Nino as he was trying to show one of them video of a fight with his dad. That officer there then takes the phone. A fight breaks out. The officer takes Nino to the ground, and Nino ended up suffering injuries to his face and a fractured wrist. So joining me now is criminal defense attorney Hector Diaz of Diaz Law. You saw this video. What do you make of it and what the officer said to the father?
I mean, did they know that this was being recorded?
Body cam
Yeah,
video.
I mean, clearly.
Yes.
I mean, listen, all joking aside, they did. Really shocking in terms of the advice, telling them that, go ahead, you can drag your son. You can, that's child abuse in most contexts, most states. And so really surprising. I, wouldn't be shocked if you learn later that these officers were probably put on some kind of administrative paid leave or not, some kind of disciplinary action was taken against them. I mean, I understand why the notice of claim was filed here.
So speaking of the notice of claim, explain exactly what that is for people who aren't familiar and basically what will be next.
So under Arizona law, if you're seeking to file a lawsuit against, say, a city, or if you're against a state entity or state government entity, you can't just file the lawsuit. You first have to draft a letter that lays out the basis for the claim and lays out the monetary amount in terms of here's what we'll settle it for.
This is kind of like a heads up.
Precursor.
I'm about ready to sue you.
Right,
yes.
precursor. And there's a deadline to submit it. If you don't submit it, then you're precluded from filing the actual lawsuit. It gives the city the ability to look at it, review the claim, and potentially settle it without any kind of litigation. And so here, I had a chance to kind of skim the notice of claim. They laid out here, clearly what occurred, that it was excessive force, that, ultimately, while they accused this young man of aggravated assault and, against a police officer, those charges were dismissed. And here's the base, that this was just really unnecessary force that occurred here. No doubt Phoenix Police is going to review this. They're going to look at it. They're going to interview these officers probably and make a decision. And they got a couple options. Maybe they don't even respond to the notice of claim and say, file the lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
And that's a possibility. Or they can engage in some kind of mediation, some kind of, some kind of effort out of court to settle it.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Okay. Our next local case got national attention. A federal jury just awarded an Arizona woman $7.25 million after she was injured on a Harry Potter ride at Universal Studios Hollywood. In 2022, 74-year-old Pamela Morrison fell while stepping onto a moving walkway, breaking her spine. Her attorney argued that the employees didn't stop the walkway for her to safely exit the ride, but attorneys for Universal, well, they said it was Morrison's fault because she was focused on her grandson and not where she was stepping. Ultimately, a jury found the theme park responsible for creating dangerous conditions. What stands out to you about this case?
That it got beyond a motion to dismiss. Sometimes these cases, especially where, you're alleging that there was a significant injury here. I think it was a spinal injury.
Right.
Sometimes these kinds of situations, Universal or a company like Universal look at it and say it's probably better off that we're not in litigation. So I was surprised that it actually made it to a jury in federal court in California.
Okay, sorry about it. Apparently, I think we have some mic issues. $7.25 million. That sounds so high to me. You thought maybe she could have even gotten more.
Universal Studios, a California jury, traditionally California verdicts when you're dealing with a large entity like this, with injuries that we're talking, could be significant in the future, right? She may have some debilitating injuries going forward. I was really surprised $7 million was the amount. Usually you see 25, 30, 40 million just almost sending a message to a company like this: get better,
Yeah.
be better, and protect the people that are going to visit the studio.
Now let's take a look at three big national cases. First, investigators are providing more details about the death of actor Gene Hackman. Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found dead in separate rooms in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home on Wednesday. A search warrant for the property called their deaths suspicious. The fire department responded to the home and conducted testing, but did not locate signs of a carbon monoxide leak or poisoning, the warrant states. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office says their investigation is still in the early stages and that while foul play is not suspected at this time, it has not been ruled out. So let's take a legal deep dive into this case. Attorney Hector Diaz joins me once again. You know, Hector, this was changing by the hour as of this morning when we were learning about it. I mean, it went from sad to just strange. You've got, you know, the fact that they were dead for quite some time.
Right.
Bodies were found separately. Pills were found nearby. On the one hand, there's no signs of foul play, but yet their deaths are called suspicious. I mean, how is one not the other? Explain the difference between foul play and suspicious, because I almost feel like they're synonymous.
Well, I think when they went in, they get the report, law enforcement, they go in and they're not seeing any obvious signs of like a shooting, a stabbing, some kind of where it's just clear that their deaths were caused by foul play.
Okay, so that it's
Right.
like it's almost like physical.
Right.
Okay.
Signs of forced entry, signs of a struggle inside the house.
Okay.
That there would have been broken glass or, you know, the couch tossed over, something like that, right?
Right.
They didn't see that. Instead, what they found were two dead bodies, you know, a dead dog, and then they found some really just things that just didn't add up.
Right.
I think, you know, when I heard the story in the morning, obviously really sad. I mean, who doesn't love Gene
Yeah.
Hackman? The thing that jumped out to me was, okay, this has got to be carbon monoxide.
That's
right?
what a lot of people
A lot
thought,
of people
yeah.
immediately, it was all over the internet, but there is no evidence of any kind of carbon monoxide or dangerous gas or whatever. They're still going to look at these issues, but at least those weren't predominant. They weren't discovered there on the scene.
Yeah.
And so they started looking. There were some other kind of concerns, pills
Right.
strewn out.
A prescription bottle, yes.
Some question in terms of, you know, did they die at the same time? Did, you know, the wife die earlier? And so they're going to take their time. They got a search warrant.
Right.
They're slowing this down, and they're going to look at the evidence. And
Yeah.
that search warrant gives them access to the house. They can go and look areas, you know, and they're able to recover certain evidence. Again, you know, you really hope there isn't any kind of foul play here, that there's some explanation. But if they need to, they may look at computers here. They may look at cell phones. They may talk to neighbors. They may see, you know, what they're going to look at their medical files. They're going to look at everything. So it's going to take some time to really dig into this.
All right. It's so bizarre. Okay. Well, our next national case involves new developments in the Menendez brothers. California Governor Gavin Newsom ordered the state parole board to investigate whether Eric and Lyle Menendez would pose a risk to the public if the two are released after nearly 3 decades in prison for killing their parents back in 1989. But just last Friday, LA County District Attorney Nathan Hackman said he opposes a new trial because the evidence the brothers put forward doesn't meet the legal standard. Here's what Hackman had to say.
Eric and Lyle Menendez had told 5 different versions of the events of what had happened. Sexual abuse in this situation, while it may have been a motivation for Eric and Lyle to do what they did, does not constitute self-defense.
Okay, so as you just heard, the sexual abuse, he believes, does not constitute self-defense. So on the one hand, this sounds like, as you heard, a major setback from the DA, but yet there's a possible chance considering what Governor Newsom just did. So explain both sides here, because it seems like a little bit of a contradiction.
Yeah, we almost see another Netflix special to explain what's going on. And so the Menendez brothers asked for a new trial. They're not going to get it. And you know, this new DA explained why. That this whole issue of you know, whether they were sexually abused, yes, you know, there is some issue here, but it doesn't rise to the level of self-defense. And that's, you know, a judge still has to rule, but he's going to oppose this. And I think a judge is going to find that there isn't a basis for a new trial.
And why wouldn't it constitute self-defense? Explain that.
So they allege that their father, over a years of, living in the house. They were subject to sexual abuse by their father. And
Right.
I think they even alleged that their mother had some issue here as well. And it's, in order to allege self-defense, I'm getting very general here, but
Yeah.
there has to be an immediacy of action here. They didn't allege that, they killed their parents because they were in the throes of being, sexually abused.
Right.
They basically alleged that it was that because of the sexual abuse, that they just felt like they were going to be killed at some point, that it was just a matter of time, and they had to beat their parents to it, and they murdered them in cold blood. And it's just doesn't fly. I think under most jurisdictions, they're not going to get a self-defense jury instruction if they go back to trial on this. And so the issue now is, can they get a resentencing?
Yes.
Right? And so the prior DA filed the motion actually saying, I think they should be resentenced.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. That's still pending. This DA has been really, tight-lipped in terms of whether he's going to support it or not support it. And I think he wants to wait. I think I think there's
Leave
some
it to the
concern.
judge.
He is. He's playing.
Yeah.
He's playing very much Switzerland here. He wants to just leave it to the judge. They do have a chance. They have a realistic chance, though, because of the sexual abuse allegations. So the court to consider that as mitigation and potentially make them parole eligible at this point. And if they are parole eligible, goes to the parole board. Governor has to still sign it. But I think that's the path to early release for them.
Right, it sounds like it. All right, well, we'll wait and see. Hector, thank you so much for your analysis on all 4 cases. We appreciate it.